must look to me now. Must justify my father's faith in me.
Have to kill him.
You may not rule, remain yourself. There is in you a door that must shut. You will do things that your heart would have recoiled from.
I dispute that I must become what I'm not.
Time will tell.
Rhaenyra just sat on the Iron Throne for the first time in her entire life, and within minutes of getting there, she realizes she has walked straight into a nightmare. The Greens didn't just lose the Red Keep, they left behind a trap. No food, no money, no way to feed the people of King's Landing, and somewhere out on the battlefield, House Hightower is about to pull off one of the boldest deceptions we've seen in this entire show. There is a fake Daeron Targaryen standing in front of Daemon and his dragons right now, and if this trick works, it could change the entire war. So let's break down every single detail hidden inside this House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 3 trailer. This trailer opens with something we have honestly been waiting years for. Rhaenyra is sitting on the Iron Throne. When you really stop and think about it, she has technically been the heir to the Iron Throne since she was a little girl, but she has never once actually sat on it herself. So many other people got to sit on that throne before her. Her father, her half-brother Aegon II, even Aegon the Conqueror himself, but not her. Not until now. We only ever saw her sit on it in Daemon's visions, both as a young girl and as an older woman, but this is the first time it is actually happening in the real timeline of the show. And here is something interesting. HBO has still not confirmed the actual title of this episode. They do this every single time. They release the episode and it still just says Episode 3 for a while before they finally update it with the real name. It is honestly a strange choice. Why not just tell us what the title is the moment you drop the episode? My guess is they are holding back the title because it might give away too much of what happens inside the episode itself, even though the trailer already gives us a pretty strong idea of where this is heading. For the most part, this trailer is really about Rhaenyra's very first day as the official sitting queen, and let me tell you, it is not a good one. She has finally claimed the Iron Throne, but claiming it and actually holding on to it are two very different things. The Greens did not just lose this fight, they made sure that whoever took over next would inherit a complete disaster. Rhaenyra is walking into a city full of problems that the Greens created and never solved, and now the small folk are going to blame her if she cannot fix things fast enough. Nobody in King's Landing cares who is right or wrong in this war. They just want food on the table, and if Rhaenyra cannot deliver that quickly, her reign could be over before it even really begins. The trailer shows her sitting on the throne wearing her father's crown, which is actually also Jaehaerys's crown. Her father took it when he became king because Jaehaerys did not want to wear the crown that Maegor had worn before him, the same crown that originally belonged to Aegon the Conqueror. That older crown is the one Aegon II has been wearing this entire time. Now here is where it gets interesting. If the Greens really were rescued by the Triarchy fleet like we suspect, then it is very possible Aegon got his original crown back, meaning the Greens might still have access to it. That crown is made of Valyrian steel. It is worth an enormous amount of money, and if it falls into the wrong hands, it could become a serious problem down the line. Inside the throne room, you can still see Luther Largent and his gold cloaks acting as her Queensguard for now, and there is already a line of people forming to petition her. This mirrors a scene we saw earlier with Aegon II after he became king, where he was forced to sit and listen to complaint after complaint from his subjects. Viserys had to do the exact same thing when he was king too. This is the part of ruling that nobody really talks about. It is not all swords and dragons, it is endless paperwork and endless problems that never seem to stop. Corlys is standing beside her because he is still serving as her hand of the king, so he is right there with her as she deals with this mess. My guess is most of the people lined up are going to be complaining about the food shortages, and here is the twist. Those shortages exist because of the naval blockade that Corlys himself set up. That blockade is the entire reason the Greens hired the Triarchy in the first place. They needed to break it so supplies could get back into the city. So now Rhaenyra is stuck cleaning up a crisis that she technically caused herself, because she was the one who ordered Corlys to enforce that blockade to begin with. Normally, the simple fix here would be to just pay for a massive shipment of food to come into King's Landing, but there is a catch. The Greens drained the crown's treasury dry trying to pay the Triarchy to break that blockade. So Rhaenyra does not actually have the money to solve this problem the easy way, which means the food shortage is going to keep getting worse, and the small folk are going to keep getting angrier. This is exactly the kind of slow-burning crisis that could turn the entire city against her before she even gets the chance to prove herself as queen. We also get scenes of her speaking with Daemon inside what used to be the king's chambers, now the queen's chambers, the same room her father lived in, the same room Aegon lived in, surrounded by her father's massive model of the Valyrian freehold. If you look closely at her face in these scenes, she looks like she has actually gotten a bit of sleep for once. The dark circles under her eyes are gone, but there is something else there now, a kind of intensity that was not there before. Emma Darcy, the actress who plays Rhaenyra, has actually talked about this in interviews, describing it as a form of religious fanaticism creeping into her rule. She genuinely believes this is preordained, that it is her destiny, and a lot of that belief has been fueled by Daemon himself, feeding her visions tied to the three-eyed raven, the weirwood tree, the Valyrian dagger, and Aegon's prophecy about the prince that was promised. This is one of the biggest dangers looming over her arc. The deeper she leans into this belief that she is chosen by fate, the more dangerous her decisions could become. We get a few different angles of her sitting on the throne, and if you remember from the books, the Iron Throne actually cuts her at some point. In this trailer, you can see her gripping the blades tightly, so it is very possible this is the moment leading up to that injury. Daemon then tells her, at any rate, we must begin, and from there, her retainers and administrators start listing off everything that is wrong. No supplies, no food, no money, barely any way to keep the castle running normally. These are not small problems she can solve in one afternoon. They are stacking up all across King's Landing, and she does not get a single moment to actually enjoy her new position as queen. There is a quick shot of her stepping over a rat while holding a piece of apple, and this is not just a random detail. It is a callback to Blood and Cheese, since Cheese was actually a rat catcher. The Red Keep has always had a rat problem. Different hands under different monarchs have tried their own ways of dealing with it, and in the books, Otto Hightower even released a bunch of cats to control the infestation. But I think this rat is meant to foreshadow something bigger, specifically the banquet she holds later in the same dining hall where we once saw the Greens and the Blacks eating together while Viserys was still alive. That contrast alone tells you everything is about to feel very different this time. We get a quick glimpse of her inside the small council chamber with Corlys and Mysaria, who has now become the new Mistress of Whispers. Corlys remains her hand, and this scene is essentially her presiding over her very first official day as queen, going around the table as everyone explains what needs to happen now that she is actually in charge of running the city. It is a mountain of paperwork and tedious administrative work, the kind of grinding responsibility nobody really pictures when they imagine sitting on the Iron Throne. Then we cut to a conversation between her and Daemon about Daeron Targaryen and his dragon Tessarion, known as the Blue Queen. Daemon is clearly trying to convince her that Daeron needs to be killed, the same way she may eventually need to deal with Aemond and Aegon II, since all three of them still hold a claim to the throne. She has already spoken with Alicent about killing Aegon, and Alicent seemed to give her a kind of quiet permission, understanding that Aemond will likely need to be dealt with too eventually. But Alicent was hoping Daeron could be spared, which is exactly why she sent him away to Oldtown, to foster with her family at the Hightower in the first place. The problem now is that Ormond Hightower, the son of Hobart Hightower, who was Otto Hightower's older brother, has taken over as the new Lord of House Hightower, and he has turned Daeron into nothing more than his personal squire, dragging him straight into the middle of the fighting and using his dragon exactly the way Alicent never wanted. Because of this, Daeron is now firmly on Daemon's radar, which means he is on Rhaenyra's radar too. Still, it looks like Daemon has to talk her into this. She is not ready to start hunting down every remaining Hightower just yet. Here is where things get really tense, because we see Daemon showing up with both Caraxes and Silverwing in the background, meaning he has access to at least one Dragon Seed rider, possibly both, standing face to face with the Hightower army. Tessarion the Blue Queen is also present on their side. But when they finally bring out the person claiming to be Daeron Targaryen, it is a silver-haired individual who looks nothing like the real Daeron we actually saw back in Episode 1, someone with dark hair and a completely different face. Even Tessarion seems confused by this fake version, making strange, uneasy sounds as if she knows something is wrong. It really seems like Ormond is betting that Daemon has never actually seen Darren in person and will not be able to tell the difference. The real question is whether Daemon is actually fooled by this obvious deception, or whether he sees straight through it. When both sides meet in the middle, we also see Hugh Hammer and bold John Roxton standing alongside Daemon, and there is a quick shot of Ormond drawing his Valyrian steel sword called Vigilance. Everyone gathered here, aside from the fake Daeron, is carrying a Valyrian blade. Daemon wields Dark Sister, John Roxton wields Orphan Maker, and it is clear this confrontation is building towards something explosive. Back inside King's Landing, Rhaenyra hosts a banquet surrounded by a room full of people, and you can see her eyeing her cup and studying the crowd carefully. She is clearly trying to figure out exactly who among these people actually supports her, likely the wealthier and more powerful figures in the city. This ties directly back to that earlier rat she stepped over, because in a way, she is trying to sniff out the rats hiding among her own supporters inside King's Landing. Then we get a heavy scene between Alicent and Rhaenyra inside the King's chambers, something fans have been asking for more of throughout the entire show. In previous seasons, the writers had to come up with increasingly forced reasons to get these two in the same room, but now they do not need an excuse anymore since they are both physically living inside the Red Keep. Alicent is clearly worried, warning Rhaenyra that the throne is going to push her into becoming darker and darker, potentially turning her into the same kind of monster that Aemond and Aegon became. Rhaenyra completely denies this, insisting she would never let herself become that kind of person. But I think the show is setting up a slow, gradual shift where circumstances and her own growing religious conviction in Aegon's prophecy push her further and further into extreme decisions. It will really come down to how well the writers pace this transformation. A perfect example of doing this badly would be Daenerys in the final season of Game of Thrones, where she went from a reasonable, sympathetic character to a full-blown mad queen almost overnight. Everything seemed fine by the end of Season 7, and then suddenly she snapped completely by the end of Season 8. Hopefully, House of the Dragon gives Rhaenyra's descent a much more gradual and believable build-up. We also get a couple of intimate scenes between Rhaenyra and Daemon, something we have not really seen much of throughout the show, especially compared to when they were younger. In more recent years within the show's timeline, there has been real distance and tension between them, but now that they have just taken the Red Keep together, Daemon is one of the only people she truly feels she can rely on, which seems to be pulling them closer again. A lot of their past conflict feels like it does not matter anymore, compared to the scale of what they are facing now. Still, earlier in the season, she made it clear she does not need Daemon's approval anymore, even if she still needs him and his dragon standing beside her. There is also a scene of her tearing down green banners throughout the Red Keep, anything connected to Aegon or Aemond, which she later burns in a public display. This also appears to be connected to a ceremony where the dragon seeds are formally knighted, and during this moment, two people react to something involving Ulf White with visible shock. This could be setting up even more tension between him and Rhaenyra and Daemon going forward, especially since Daemon has already shown clear hostility toward Ulf in previous episodes, and it looks like Ulf might be starting to resent both of them in return. There is also a brief, blurry shot of Rhaenyra meeting with someone inside the throne room who might be a Septon, though it is hard to make out clearly. And finally, we see her burning everything connected to Aegon and Aemond, all remnants of the Green's reign, while someone tells her that only time will reveal whether she becomes a good ruler or whether she eventually becomes the very thing Alicent is warning her about. Overall, this trailer makes one thing very clear. These are still the early days of her reign, and the road ahead is anything but simple. She has the throne, but she does not have peace, she does not have food, she does not have money, and she may not even fully have the loyalty of everyone standing around her. So the real question is, how long can Rhaenyra hold on to this throne before the pressure finally breaks her, the way it broke everyone who sat on it before her?